All right, thanks Chris for having me, and thanks everyone for coming out. All of these poems are coming from a manuscript that I'm working on now. The manuscript's called Southern Color Sight. I think most of it's explained therein, so I'll just go ahead and get to it. To whom it may concern. Randy D. Moore was employed by Southern Color Type Company, Inc. as a full-time employee from June 12, 1972 until April 2nd, 2010. His title was plant engineer. During his employment, Randy was in charge of all building and equipment maintenance and repairs, including HVAC and electrical systems, sheet-fed printing presses, and die cutters, as well as narrow and wide web flexographic presses. Southern Color Type ceased operations in March 2009. Randy was retained due to his vast knowledge of our printing equipment and plant operations, and has been invaluable during our liquidation. Randy's attendance record was excellent. His honesty, integrity, and dedication to his work and the company were never questioned. He was well liked and respected by his coworkers as well as management. I can highly recommend Randy to any organization seeking a candidate with his unique talents. Sincerely, Controller. Reciprocal own. The next voice you hear cannot be distinguished from the page preceding this one. I left work to look at factory windows, burn daylight into black-hatched channels, and have the talk with my father repeat against their fevered silt. From the page preceding this one, I left work out of reach, out of breath, out of breast pocket. I lifted the smothering weight of a notebook plowed over with second thoughts and strike-throughs. Striking through to what? The elegy is a clutched hush. To look at these factory windows burn daylight, you wouldn't believe that behind each vacant flicker, rooms remain where we, composed like them, invisibly began. Large enough in our skin to cast astonishment onto the mismanagement of grief. Where Jericho falls into black-hatched channels, we have talked the night away with Willie Dale, who was let go from the plant before my father and comes up to us at a car show, unlettered with word. You won't believe it, Randy. They hired me to walk the lots at the outlet mall. With my father repeating against their fevered silt, Willie Dale, beat to death by his heart, weeks later, slumped over between two cars, died while the security camera caught it all. While what was not bolted down, my father drug off on the dying company's dime. The next voice you hear cannot be distinguished from the page preceding this one. It is all second thought and ballpoint strike through. Striking through to what? Each day is a tearing down to the drains, forces out of our control, I tell you, out of our hands. This, America, is where we invisibly began, composed in skin that has clutched the lull and weight of industrial cremains. This is where Jericho falls and the voice is bolted down to what the security camera saw, to what my father dug up and drug off with his words. You spend your life working on the train. You talk to the train. You care about the train. Then someone tells you there's no place to go, and you could just as soon reach out and touch the months. Fits and starts. Over time, Sherman refused to push a broom past nightfall, push past ghost shoals of a plant built so seeds whisper on the spot. Some mystery train he'll hop by headphones 8 hours long, push past bright pastures, bright licks laying steel points we see through. Over time, Sherman refused. One night alone, he hears clear plastic piled white, scream bloody murder when swept. All alone, listening to dust settling on the tracks, some to the wayside of speech, some stemming the seed of slang. The machine sees what my hands can do and doubles it without me knowing if the end is nigh or night or seed, thumbing mine eyes to sparks. I feel you, Sherman, says Sam. Sam holds his own at the press. Says place feels like it's pulling away from time, pulling to the right. Corsican others. Came up with something called something else. Born Sherman and Sam, the two took to being called something unsung, something felt. Called quarter till and it cannot be sold, the two took to being talked into analogical else. Born Sherman and Sam, the two took turns, tethered to decoys, saying little to nothing to each other. Times were, they'd say, they were slaves. Couldn't shut up about squirming into swollen palms of printing presses, sunken temples called something unsung, something wrung out. Ice bags stockpiled on conveyor pulleys, plashing under undercarriage, inky sweat squall in pits and knees of midnight blues. You can't make anything cold, says quarter till. Can only take the heat out. Felt called. Quarter till rose from what could not be called or confused with sleep. Dusted off source subjects. No severance from southern color type. No totem pole or coffee spoon to measure out languid moon. Sits at stoplights with shut eyes, looking out through lids to see it all over again. How the two took to being talked into the other people's dreams. Wake up occasionally with words in their mouth. Cannot be sold, asks how they taste. Quarter claims chicken. Make that chicken coop. Cannot be, comes up with calf brains. Matter of fact, make that mottled bulbs. Mottled light from a cordless moon. Two men slow motoring through drop structures. Music sitting, swooning off at opposite ends of the same intersection. One in pursuit of mountains, the other making his way to water. Call them twins in fraternal order of traffic. Quarter till, dozing in the driver's seat, dreams he is cannot, today cannot complain about the plant pulling to the right. On the walls of his post-conveyor skull, cannot sees himself as quarter till, clawing at the floor of the plant with push broom, wearing headphones the day Lady Di died, the day Tim McVeigh toppled over in his chair. Till takes his eyes off the floor and talks to bulbs mottled with dust he stirred up, sweeping. Motes spiraling up into the light. Says he hears McVeigh knocking on those pearly gates. Too bad, they'll say. They'll say, we're sorry, Mr. McVeigh. You done killed too many babies. Done killed too many babies. Can everyone hear me? The open door fallacy. Further he went out of his mind, gathering experience. The deeper upon returning to work, he tilled the jukebox, singing, "The South is the oldest place on earth. It has been in the Walmart the longest." called Lynn Feely.
I thought it was Robert Creeley.
Last we spoke, little rehearsals lined our mouths with a luster stronger than that, normal to ink. With more marshaled rhythm, Hokusai's fluent lines have us somewhere between working hard and hardly working. His wave, a page hung in mid-hurl. With a luster stronger than that, normal to ink, the scratch clean straight through to wood, block, solid speech, letting us in on the hard luck stories objects share. Their trench language, their limits twitch. Maladjusted, we mother tongues with more marshaled rhythm. Hokusai's fluent wave overtakes the laboring blank with spending power, with white hands hollering back to one another. This draft is smoke from the smell, burnt fuel from the plant. I claim these steps, said to myself, if you ever ask me out on a date, Lynn Feely, I'll answer, does money spend? When first I found myself reading the page preceding this one to a group of writers, including a member who had weeks earlier confessed feelings for me, I knew reading a piece that mentions my falling in love with you would cause more injury than I could justify. Still, the page vibrated in front of me, brimming with all the work I had put into it, brimming again with all the stress I had let work my eyes into blurry floats of light, leaving the page at night largely illegible to my brain. And now the same page sat there, shaking to the beat of a steam engine at a thresher show, an open field in farm country, where my father would approach the man who had built the piece of equipment from scratch, and they would speak a language of instinct and nimble suspicion, one that I could no more understand than if the engine itself was trying to ask me out on a date. At my father's request, the man would fire up the engine, and though it was tied to no pulley or farm implement, tied to no functional labor, they would watch the engine cycle through its fuel, run rich and shake so wildly it would echo into their speech and well tears up in my eyes from the sound kicking broadly against my chest. At the thresher show, there is no door equal to the heart, God. In front of the writer's circle, your name set on the page, shaking with intention and torqued hours of unlearning. I could not keep from reading it aloud, but the poem demanded that particular sound of Lynn Feely, which made switching it out with just any word virtually impossible. I started reading the poem, knowing in the back of my mind I had to find some word that would rhyme with Feely, some word that would Robert Creeley. If you ever ask me out on a date, Robert Creeley, I'll answer, does money spend? In the wave, there is either beauty or the labor it hides. In the draft, there are only inelegant phrases picked up in native places. Purple bleeds my vision, bearing down on soft paper. Walking the streets we put to sleep, I seek you out in storefronts so large none of us could say it was our reflection. Sushi restaurants of my boyhood go boarded up, get them confused with boiled tenements. Still, I will call this place with no sign Kodo. Still, the facade wears the Hokusai mural. Blue wave of bricks, surf pocked with wear, crest scrawling under graffiti. It's not that I don't associate you with labor, Robert Creeley. It's just those little rehearsals you mouth at the break of lines bear a luster stronger than that, normal to work. Just got a couple more. Bag catcher. From waking the line where it calls her with its toggle switch and song, Sylvia barters her beginnings at the bag machine. Weighing her wants in a broken record shop, she swills burnt cockney brewed strong. With its toggle switch and song, workday waxes ingrown tongue, box of earbuds on the wall to protect us from. Sylvia does without. Hears nothing noise long into night. Hears nothing noise salt the sky, salt stars shining into bartered beginnings of her next shift. Flipping twin switches, she fires up main crank and counter, wonders if it is worse to crank out nothing or to count it. Fastening her hope to flinches, she replies to "Good morning, Sylvia, morning, love," and morning, love, it is until lunch, followed by "Hey, love," to the mechanic. Could you check my roll? My job ticket, love? Love, I live alone in Rat's Alley, love, stenciling my shape, love, with burnt copy, burnt strong. Last night, love, I dreamed a last-ditch landscape, dreamed the doors off their hinges, bombs of love, love, marionetting into our open mouths, as we clocked out and ambled through wrought iron gates. Bright and filthy love, nothing to say, save, see you later, love. Nervous cistern, love, loud hailer, love, suppressed silo, love. It was mid-August, love, when the roof blew off the potato chip factory next door, salt dancing in sheets across the parking lot, collecting in the beds of pickups, gutters spilling over. We had to walk, love, from the basement to our cars without opening our eyes, convinced the salt would burn them. Fastening our hopes to flinches, we set aside our tentative limbs, letting long strides carry us, blind and confident, into an awareness that our bodies had been counting steps all along, had been keeping up with how far we were from home. Straightening, we ambled through desert in song. Driving salt slurs our lyrics into loved ones who needn't be named, their actions silent as sound faucet. Two more. The beholders share. We talk about sex until we have it in our minds that bodies are part of what they distance. And part of what they distance is half gutter Greek, half taken from the middle, half left to suggest that instead of putting down a towel, we go to town on a pile of cardboard boxes, each a kind of forecast in the raw, waiting to be filled with poly bags. We call her the hot knife, running upwards of 700 degrees, speaking in rungs, lungs emptied into a lot, vent works, ducts hung overhead, narrowing into exhaust, some stint of smoke, only song of biting down before I ask, am I hurting you? Or is that a good no voice at all? Releasing bag after bag, the clear breath is cut and sealed, pressed to cardboard pallet, ready to be shipped. Readiness is all the voice can know. Running upwards of 700 degrees, bags clogged, the blade holding its breath, wiping it down, the pressman says, we scorch towels. Our good news, all hoodooed, hot pink. Fueling the gather in vacant lots, morning holds more hands than there are sirens to pull. Hands here implies a person paid by the hour, whereas siren suggests a kind of shed. After the rain, the Lord hath said, there will be rain in the way you talk. After the talk, the shed hath said, if you drown in your work, you will have to cut the most beautiful thing from your lungs. A pattern for local deferments. Yes, some suffering, but also a way of saying when. Thank you.